around 19 inches of snow fell in Needham during the blizzard that mostly took place on Monday, February 23rd. The storm led to the governor declaring a statewide emergency, and Needham Public Schools closed for 2 days. I spoke with the director of the Needham DPW, Karis Lustig, about the difficulties associated with high-volume storms and the outlook for the remainder of the winter season.
I think there's a couple different challenges. The first is having equipment that's large enough in order to handle it. Many of our contractors are small landscaping companies who have plows on the top of their pickup trucks. And when the snow is greater than a foot, they can no longer stack the snow effectively because it's higher than their plows. So we've had to be more reliant on heavier pieces of equipment, which we have currently our own staff that operates heavier equipment, but we have contractors also that come in. And we have seen a declining amount of contractors with large equipment coming into the town regionally, but into Needham specifically over the past several years. The width of the roads becomes a challenge, and what effectively ends up happening during a storm like this is your sidewalk crew and your road crew end up fighting each other. So you open up your sidewalk and then you fill it back in, and then you open up your sidewalk and then you fill it back in. And the volume of snow obviously makes this much more challenging in order to address. And then after the event, we have to stack it in certain places, either in parking lots or in the parking stalls in the downtown. And then we have to come back in and remove it. And that's a really intensive process. The storm that we just had took over 36 hours for the town to manage, which is 36 hours of the same staff being in and operating that equipment. So you have to, we're only humans, and you have to send people home and get them rest. But the vast majority of hauling has to happen overnight because schools are occupied during the day. The parking lots are occupied during the day. And so we just did our first haul last night from this event. And then we're going to give our staff another night to rest and come in the following day. There's generally an expectation that things will be cleared up immediately. I think Needham does a really good job in managing snow, but we aren't magicians and we don't have the ability to make the snow go away. And the process of removing snow, this volume of it, it's going to take weeks. The type of snow that we had come in was a heavier wet snow than what we've had in previous larger duration events. And that becomes much more challenging because it causes more equipment failure. We had several contractors who had to leave early because their equipment no longer was functioning. And we ourselves had to repair several pieces of equipment during the event. So there's certainly some reduction that we have in our equipment that we're going to continue to work on so that it's up and running for our next event. I would just say physical capacity of staff is definitely kind of hitting a breaking point. We're well into the winter, but we're probably 6 weeks into a very intensive component of that winter. Even for the little storms, like we had a little event Friday into Saturday that I feel like no one's going to remember because it was only 3 inches, but we had staff that worked 25 hours during that event. So even a little event can be a lot of physical tear on our staff. And then the third thing you mentioned was supplies and salt. We've seen this a couple years before. We have a salt contractor, and the town of Needham has a really large salt barn, which is great because we basically can store the amount of salt we need for a normal winter in that barn. So it gives us some advantages. But right now there's a salt shortage nationally. We're working with our contractors, and we have been told we're sort of being prioritized on getting salt deliveries into Needham. In most communities in Massachusetts, we intentionally under budget snow. You don't want to set your snow budget too high because in a year where we don't get a lot of snow, that's all money that can't be spent on other things. So in Needham, what they do is they actually put a lot of resources that we would anticipate being for snow into the Finance Committee's reserve fund. We just had our snow budget adjusted. Typically, it's around $450,000. We were adjusted up to 1.7 million, and I anticipate we will be asking for more funds as well. We do not apply salt to sidewalks, and we're about to get into a pretty prolonged period of freezing and thawing. So it's going to melt during the day, it's going to thaw, it's going to create black ice. So if you can go out and put some salt on that area, it would be helpful. DPW is responsible for clearing fire hydrants in Needham. So if people can go out, clear their own fire hydrants, obviously it's going to protect your own safety because if you ever have a fire, it will help you. But obviously it will help us out because we can now direct our snow clearing efforts to widening roads. And then the second thing is with weather coming in next week, it is possible we will be getting some rain. And we will be going out and trying to clear as many catch basins as possible because the snow can kind of act like cement and lock the water into the roadway. So if you happen to know that you live near a catch basin, if you could go out and take your shovel and open up that catch basin for us, that would also be a huge help.